This is Trinesha Cottrell, and today is day 22 of 30 Days of Purpose. So, first, I want to talk about why you should not settle for less. So, and I think I named it something different. It was like why you should not accept less. And so, here's the reason why you shouldn't accept less. Because every time you accept less, you are lowering your own self esteem. Every time in the past, and I want to be completely transparent and telling you everything that's been happening in my life and the things that I went through in the past and what brought me to this point. So, there was a point in my life where I was kind of like, okay, I don't know how I'm going to heal in this season. I don't know how I'm going to get to the point where I have standards and boundaries, healthy standards and boundaries, things that actually matter, not just things that I heard somebody say and it sounded good, but things that I truly do in my life. Like I really live this life, like not just me pretending like I'm doing all the things right just to put on the show, but actually being about that type of life. And so it's funny because some of the things that happened to me in the past was when I first started really like feeling like, okay, I'm going to start dating. I would talk to like a guy or something, and I would just always feel like, okay, every guy, it seems like they're not, interested. And I'm not saying like they're not interested, like they weren't attracted to me, because I think this is something that we have to learn. We have to know that just because someone is interested in you does not mean that they're going to be that into you, does not mean that they'll be willing to put forth an effort, does not mean that they will be willing to do all of the things that's necessary to keep you. Now they might be attracted to you, they might even be interested in getting your number, they might be interested in talking to you on the phone, but they might not be interested in marrying you. They might not be interested in doing what it takes to be the type of guy that you need to be in you need to have in your life. But it's nothing against that person, that's just not who they are, and you're not the person for them. And I know, like, when you say things like that, a whole bunch of, like, for women, for the most part, they we feel like a certain type of way when we hear this in a video, and it's like, oh, like you feel like a part of you got sucked out or something, like you just lost your breath in that moment, because it's like, okay, well, this didn't work out, that didn't work out, and now you're telling me this guy didn't want me. Let me tell you something that truly blessed my life, and it will really rectify the whole situation and make you forget about that. I have started recently telling myself, what does it matter to me? I know you're like, that's harsh. Why would you go that deep? Like, you gonna really be that deep, that strong willed? You gonna really be that whatever? Like, in your personality, you're gonna be so just abrupt with making a decision like that? Yes. I am no longer in a season where I can drag out something that's not God. I'm no longer in a season where I could try to feel like I'm trying to make someone see my worth. I'm not in the type of season where I need to prove to somebody else that I am who God created me to be. I'm not there anymore. I might have been in there in the past, and I feel comfortable saying that because there's a lot of women that are still there and they need to know how to get out of it. I'm not saying it in a judging way. I'm saying it because I was there, and this is what helped me get past it. And I don't want to just look around and keep seeing people settle for less than what God has for them. I don't want to keep looking around and seeing women just settle for the bare minimum from a whole bunch of things. I don't want to see guys just settle for the bare minimum because their wife hasn't come yet. Like, I want them to actually wait on God. I want them to not grow weary in doing well. I want them to know that God got them, and that they don't have to ever feel like they're going to be without something, because God is pruning. He is making sure that you are exactly the way that you're supposed to be, so you can be prepared for the next season of your life. He's not going to give you a good woman if you're not willing to commit. Why would he give a good woman to a man that's not willing to commit? Why would he give a good woman to a man who has no vision for his life, who doesn't have a relationship with God already? A good, godly woman. He's not going to give you his child if you're not ready. That's why he has you preparing. That's why he's using all the trauma that you've been through and bringing it back up again so that you can grow this time, so that you can learn from past experiences, so the things that broke you in the past won't break your relationship. So like I feel like that's what God's been doing with me. I have things that I've gotten over and they come back up and I'm like, God, I already dealt with this. Why are you bringing this back up again? God, I already am over this. Why is this happening right now? And God's like, because you need to learn something from this experience. And I'm like, I learned something. You saw, I did the one video and I was talking about all the stuff I learned from past, relationships and things. And God's like, yeah, that's good. But what did you pull from it? Like, you learned a lesson, but what did you pull from it? What are you utilizing in your life? Like, it's easy to say, oh yeah, I'm never going to ever let a man do this ever again. I'm never going to ever do this again. But until you're about that action, you haven't learned anything. And I know it's harsh saying that, and I know some people probably clicked off right there, and I hope that you stayed so you can hear whatever it is that God has for you, because if you're here, that means that God intended for you to hear this message. I can't. I want every person watching this video to no longer be in a season where they're settling for less than God's best for them. I want every single person to realize it's not their problem. It's not your problem if somebody doesn't like you. I used to feel like, okay, well, and even if somebody does like you, that's not your problem. The thing that you should be doing, and this is just my 2 cents. Not, you live your life, but I'm just telling you what I would do in this situation. When someone likes you, just because somebody likes you does not mean that you have to like them. You have a choice. Just like you might meet a guy. Just because you like this guy does not mean he needs to be just as into you as you're into him. He has a choice. So you have to really be mindful of the fact that every person has a choice in their life for the decisions that they want to make. The path they want to go forward is set forth for them by God, but it's their choice to make a step. It's their choice to choose these different things in their life, and you can't make someone do anything. Now, you can be controlling in a relationship and have all of these toxic, negative tendencies, but that's not what a healthy relationship is about. So, and I mean that all the way around. I'm not saying it like I'm a relationship person. I'm saying it in friendships. I'm saying it in family. Any type of ship that's sailing is going to need the proper waves. It's going to need the proper water. It's the water to tread on. You can't just be on a ship in a storm unless you're Jesus and then just calm the storm. You have to be focused. And so it's funny because I was listening to a sermon earlier today about a storm, and it was funny because it said the adversary is the one that's creating the storm, but God already knows the storm is coming, so he's already prepared you for it. It's just that we are the ones that freak out, and that's when the adversary jumps in, is when we get nervous, when we get anxious. The Bible says be anxious for nothing. So every time you're anxious, that's the adversary trying to make you worry about something that God's already taken care of. So as we're on this journey, as we're going through different things in our life, I just have reached the point in my life where I'm just like, it's not my problem. It's not my job. It's not my responsibility. It's not my problem to make someone like me. They either like me or they don't. They either step up to the plate and do what it is that God knows that I deserve in my life, or they don't. And I'm not saying I have like this big list. I don't believe in lists. I believe in God. Whatever it is that God has for me is what I want. And I also know that I want to honor and respect myself. And if the person doesn't honor and respect me or treat me with dignity, like human decency, common decency, then I can't have that person be a part of my life. That's just bare minimum stuff. And I'm not saying it like I'm trying to get on people. I'm just saying that having good core values or being a decent human being is not everybody. But that's the type of person and the type of people that I want to be a part of my life. People who have a really good values, people who are following God. And I'm not saying I can't have a conversation with someone if they don't, believe in God or whatever else. I'm saying, and I'm not that type of church person that's going to judge somebody for choosing a different type of life, because I have to worry about myself. And and be content with myself, with the decisions that I'm making. I can't live somebody else's life for them. So that's their choice, But my hope as a Christian is that everybody feels the peace and joy that I feel with God, you know? So that's just my thing. So, really, when the next time you meet somebody, and it could be, I don't know why I'm throwing this out there or why I want to say this as an example, but it could be a person at work. It could be a person you see in the mall. It could be a person that you see out and about somewhere. And this guy is so cute, and you're like, oh, why doesn't he talk to me? Listen, ladies, men, it is not your responsibility, your job, or your problem if that person does or doesn't like you. You have to like you. You can't worry about why they do, why they don't, why they did this, why they didn't do that. You're going to drive yourself crazy trying to think about why somebody else is doing something for their life. You have to focus on your life. And I know sometimes it's difficult because you just want to get in your own feelings. You want to feel like it's a personal thing. Sometimes it's a personal thing for them. Sometimes they're not in a position where they're ready to be in a relationship. And that just means you're not the person, because if you're the person, they're gonna make themselves ready. I don't know why I said it like that, but seriously, it could be anything. It could be they know they were a player from the Himalayas. I don't know why I put it like that, but and they just know they're not going to treat you right, and you seem like a good person. So that's a blessing. That's God's redirecting you on the path to the person that is for you. So you can't think of everything as you're losing something, like, oh, well, this person doesn't like me. I want to say who cares, but I understand if you're a caring person, you will care. But seriously, like, you have to understand that it's not your problem. It's not your responsibility to make that person like you. It's not your responsibility to make that guy at work see you. It's not your responsibility to make the person who you were crazy about be crazy about you. That is not your job or your responsibility or your problem. You got things to do in life. God has already purposed you for so many things, and you cannot be distracted by the ways of the world, so much so that you forget God's promise. Every time you're going through life and something happens that doesn't go your way, you have to start thinking to yourself, am I just wanting God to be a genie in the bottle? Am I just expecting God to just be a conditional English statement? Like, if then, like, if I go to church, then God will give me this husband. If I live right, then God is going to give me this house that I wanted all of my life. Listen, God's love, the love that you have for God, your discipline, your obediency is not contingent on an if then statement. It is not it is not a conditional relationship. You have to really think of the reasons why you love God. And it can't be because God continuously blesses me. It's got to be because God gave his only begotten son when he didn't even know me. Like, can you imagine sacrificing something for someone that you don't even know? And then think about all the things that you'd have made mistakes on. All when I think about my missteps and how much of a hot mess I was in the past, and sometimes I still have hot mess tendencies, and that's just me being real, because I'm never gonna be perfect, and I don't do it intentionally now. Now it's more like, oh, okay, God, let's reel it back on in. I gotta stay on the straight and narrow path. But yeah, it'll just be stuff like that. And when I'm going through life, I have to really think about, okay, even though I made mistakes, even though I had missteps, even though I am not perfect, God still loves me. And that's why I serve him. That's why I'm intentional with my life. That's why I'm willing to be disciplined on all of the things in my life. And I know sometimes it gets hard because you're like, well, I don't have a husband yet. I don't have this dream job yet. I don't have whatever else it is that in your heart of hearts you want so badly that God hasn't given you it yet. And the reason why he probably hasn't given it to you yet is because you made that thing your idol. You made that thing your God. And I feel like I need to explain what an idol is. Just a little brief description, because some people don't realize what an idol is, and they think An idol means something that you just are worshiping. Yeah, it could be worshiping to an extent, but also it's anything that you would put before God. If you on Sundays know that you should be in church, but you're outside washing and cleaning your car because you just can't make time for God because God gave you this car, you're idolizing your car. If you know you're supposed to be in Bible study and you got this new pet or whatever else, and you decide that you want to go take your dog for a walk during Bible study and you can't dial in, so you decide you don't want to go to Bible study on Wednesdays because that's the only time you get with the dog, or watching your favorite TV show, then that TV show, that dog has become your idol. Anything that you're willing to put God aside, or your discipline for your purpose, like anything that God puts on your heart for you to do, anything that's God centered that you push aside for something else has become your idol. So when you start thinking, oh, like my thing that I did recently, and I want to be transparent in saying this, is I had started making like decent money, like, you know, good money. And I was in a comfortable position. And I was just feeling like, okay, I'm good here, this and that. And then I ended up losing that opportunity. And I got another opportunity, but it wasn't the same as the one that I had before. It was different. And so I feel like it was a blessing because I was thinking, okay, this money is going to help me pay this bill. This money is going to allow me to go travel. This money is going to allow me to get this car. This money is going to, and money, I wasn't idolizing the money to an extent where I was worshiping the money, but the money became God's substitute. It became like, oh, this is possible because of money, not because God blessed the money and allowed me to be in the position to have the money so that I could pay these things. It was more like, oh, well, because I have this money, I can do this. But now, oh, I can't imagine not making this type of money. Now, oh, this money does this money does that. No, God did all of that. God gave me the position. God allowed me to get the car. God allowed me to have a house, a roof over my head. God allowed me to be able to find a skincare regimen that was actually going to be beneficial for blemishes and things like that so that my skin can be clear. God allowed me to be able to do all of the things that he's allowed me to do, to afford healthy foods, to put gas in the tank. Everything in my life, everything that I am breathing in and out, every single thing inside, outside of me, materialistic, every person, place, or thing that's a part of my life is because of God. Nothing that I do is because of anything else but God. And that's how you have to be when you think about these things in your life. If you're thinking, oh, if I get married, all of a sudden all these problems will be fixed, I will feel complete. I'll feel like I fit in. I'll feel like I'll be able to go on vacation. I'll be able to go to events with someone. That person will be able to hold me at night. That person will be like, you have this idea of what marriage is going to be for you. Like it will be your everything, but God is your everything. You are a person before you find the person. And sometimes I think we forget that while we're on the journey, while we have these ideas of the things that we want in life. And we get so focused on the I, like, I want this, that we forget that we need to check with God. We forget that we're living because of God, that everything that we're doing is because God has an idea for how we are going to be in our purpose. Like God told me to do these videos. I would have never thought of doing these videos and then be talking about God. Like if you would have said this to me 10 years ago, I would have been like, really? But now that God had me go through this path, now that God like literally brought me up from my lowest point in my entire life, it literally has made me have clear vision. Like when I look outside and I see the clouds and the birds, I'm just so much more appreciative. And when I feel myself start to slip, I call on God. Like sometimes I don't always feel like 100% all in. Sometimes I really feel like, oh my gosh, I'm drifting back a little bit. Oh my gosh, I feel myself wanting to pull this way or do the things that I used to do. And I'm like, no, what did that do for me? Nothing. It left me feeling empty and never filled any voids. It never filled me up like God does. And sometimes when time makes you forget how much pain, how much suffering you had to go through in those seasons. And so When you look back, you're like, oh, it wasn't that bad. No, it was horrible. You need to just keep it moving. Don't go back there. But yeah, that's how we are. And sometimes we'll feel like, well, maybe if I change this thing about me, maybe if I talk a little bit like this, maybe if I laugh like this, maybe if I stand like this, I dress like this. We think of all these things that we have to do to change the person that we are to make somebody else accept us when it's not our problem. Our job is not to convince somebody else that we are who God created us to be. That is not our job. So if they can't see it, that means God didn't intend for them to see it, because a person who's for you is going to see all of that. And I was going to tell this story about the Little Mermaid, but I really don't want to make this video too long. I guess I will, because, now people are going to be like, what is it about the Little Mermaid? So one thing that I pulled, and I tell you, I learned something from everything. I literally pull a sermon, a word, education from every single thing every person I talk to, everything that I watch. If I'm watching something, I'm like, God, teach me something in this movie. Teach me something in this show. Teach me something while I'm talking to this family member, this friend, whatever it is that I'm doing, because I'm trying to learn as much as I can from everything. I could be talking to a 2-year-old and still be educated. Like, we did a puzzle one day, and my cousin was looking for a puzzle piece, and she goes, and the little girl tries to push in a piece that doesn't fit, and she's like, you can't force something to fit that doesn't belong there. I said, woof, whole word. I really, yeah, that's me. But so I'm watching The Little Mermaid. And for those of you that don't know, I'm not going to tell the whole movie because some people probably haven't watched it or whatever else. But Ariel was on there, and the sea witch, or whatever you want to call it, hears that Ariel has an amazing voice and wants to take her voice from her. And, sometimes the people that are watching you want to take something from you that they feel like is your gift, and God is just letting them see that part of you. That's not everything God has to offer. That's not everything that you are. So, although the sea witch only saw Ariel's voice, that was not the only gift that she had. She could truly be herself and still get all of the things that God had for her. That's how our life is. We're not just one thing. God created us to be a solution. He created us to be in our purpose. And although we think it's going to be just one thing, God is the God of abundance. It could be anything. God can use every single thing. There's nothing that any person can take from you that is yours. And I want you to always remember that. So when you think about somebody that doesn't like you, the job that you didn't get, or whatever else it is in your life, remember that that's not your problem. It's not your responsibility to prove to somebody that you are who God created you to be. It's not your job or your responsibility to make anybody like you, because they're not your possession. They're God's person. They are a person that God created. You don't own that person. You don't own that person's personality, their decisions, anything. The only thing that you can control is your actions. So focus on what you can do to be a better person. And if you are done settling for less, say in the comments, I'm focusing on God. Or you could put no more. Because today is the last day that you accept anything less than God's best for you. Today is the last day that you accept breadcrumbs. Today is the last day that you think, I've been single all these years. I'm going to just settle for this woman because she goes to church. I'm going to settle for this man because he quotes scripture. Listen, that ain't all it is. Like, you're going to have to do a lot more than just that. And it's going to be God going to have to give me a head nod, like a yes, for me to be like, okay, this person is for me. It's not my job to convince somebody that I'm worth what God says that I'm worth in my life. If God is saying that I need to be loved like Christ loved the church, and honored and respected and treated like a human being with common decency, that's exactly what I'm going to get in my life. I'm not settling for anything less than that. And you can come with it however you want to come with it. You could look like you just stepped off the front page of a magazine. I don't care if you smell like God created that cologne that you got on. That is not what I'm about. I'm about God's intention for my life. Whatever it is that God needs for me to have is what I want. And I'm accepting nothing less. And I hope that you will not accept anything less as well. So no more in the comments. And I'm about to hop off because, I didn't want to take too much of your time. But I will see you guys tomorrow for day 23. And I thank you so much for hopping on, for joining, for supporting everything. Like, I just want to be able to serve and help as many people as possible just see their worth. I want them to understand that you don't have to be like anybody else. You just need to be the best version of you. I want them to know that it doesn't matter what you did in the past, you can come exactly as you are and God will accept you. I want you to know that no matter what's happening around you, stay focused on God because He'll guide you the rest of the way. So I will see you tomorrow. I'll be on here at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So, yes. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good night.